heart.
Like Toronto, you see the eyes, and like the Saint Hour is crying, and the heart, and the angel wings.
Message today for me is love and peace. I like the fact that there's so many people here together to make a good thing out of a bad thing.
And David joins us now from the Memorial Wall, not far from where this attack began. And so, David, a lot of talk today about remembering, but also healing. What's your sense of where things stand for this community?
You really get a sense of it on the walk between where you are tonight and where I am. This is roughly, as you know, where the attack began. Where you are is closer to where it ended. But as you walk down this street, down Yonge Street, you see flowers, you see all of these messages that have been left in the places where people fell. There is an enduring memory, an enduring question still, but also trauma around what happened and why. And a lot of that trauma is being felt by those who were here nearly a week ago, who went and tried to help. People like Abdullah Masoudi, who you just met in our story, as he said to us tonight, when he hears a speeding van, he turns around, looks over his shoulder right away, and thinks, Ian, that it's happening all over again.
All right, David Common, thank you very much. Those Good Samaritans and so many others jumped into the fray at various points along the van's path of destruction to aid victims in its wake. And tonight, we've retraced that path to give you a better understanding of how it all unfolded. The rampage began at the corner of Yonge Street and Hendon Avenue. The driver speeding south, his van jumping the sidewalk. Then it lurched back onto the street and continued south, veering into the northbound lanes. At Parkholme Avenue, a busy pedestrian corner, it mounted the curb again and continued down Yonge into busy Mel Lastman Square, striking several people, then turning right and proceeding west until Beecroft Road. There it turned left and headed south again, covering a fair stretch and crossing a major street, Shepherd Avenue. A bit further south, the van turned left on Bogart Avenue, mounting the sidewalk once again as it proceeded eastward. Then a right turn, bringing it back onto Yonge, just for a short distance though, coming to a stop on the sidewalk. From the first 911 call to the arrest, 7 minutes that changed so many lives. Just a few minutes, 10 people were killed in that time, 10 lives cut short. And throughout this hour, we'll be bringing you their stories and a look at how they're each being remembered. We will have more portraits of the people who lost their lives throughout the hour, and I'll be speaking with some members of the community as North York tries to rebuild, and our special coverage continues. And now, Rosemary, you have some of the other stories that are making news this evening.
Yeah, that's right, Ian. It's been a rough few weeks for this country, and sadly there's another vigil being planned now tomorrow night for young victims of a very different kind of tragedy. 3 boys, 2 11-year-olds and a 13-year-old were hit by a car on a northern road in Manitoba. 1 was riding a bike and 2 were walking when they were struck. All of them were killed. The accident happened just outside Nelson House, Manitoba. That's part of a Cree First Nation, 800 kilometers north of Winnipeg.
It's hard to comprehend that it actually happened, and especially in light of all the other tragedies across Canada, it's hard to imagine how a family must feel.
First Nations leaders say the entire community is devastated and in shock, including relatives of the 27-year-old driver who turned himself into police later in the night.
He is currently in custody. He'll be facing numerous alcohol, impaired driving related conditions, as well as fleeing the scene of a collision.
This evening, the 3 boys were identified as Keithan Lobster, age 13, and 11-year-olds, Mateo Moore Spence and Terrence Spence. In British Columbia now, more people were forced from their homes today. Emergency officials saying hundreds are in immediate danger from flooding. In the Tulameen area, southwest of Kelowna, an evacuation is underway. Northwest of Kamloops, an evacuation order was issued for parts of the Nasco Valley, and the community of Cache Creek has now been under a state of emergency since Friday. As the CBC's Briar Stewart tells us, residents are being warned to brace themselves for what's still to come.
For the 1,000 people who live in Cache Creek, it feels like they're at the complete mercy of the environment.
The flow will increase 2 to 3 times.
The mayor says this community is at risk of flooding again. In previous years, it's been devastating. Last year, the fire chief died after being swept away by a surging creek. Then last July, a raging wildfire forced everyone from their homes and burned down several properties. Today, all those blackened trees are still having an effect.
When you burn off a third of the watershed of the Bonaparte River, there's nothing left there to hold back the water. And so that's why we see earlier than normal this type of level in the Bonaparte River.
On Friday, the creek running through here overflowed. Water spilled out into this motel.
Get out there.
Your customers were helping you?
Yeah.
Sek-Young Kim and his guests tried to keep the water away, but 19 rooms were damaged. You lost a lot of business.
Damage is a little bit, money is a little bit, maybe $10,000 something. No business damage is a problem.
He can't have any more guests stay until it's all cleaned up.
This river isn't expected to crest until next week, so this community is watching the water levels very closely. But in other parts of the province, some people have already been ordered out of their homes because of flooding.
More than 140 homes in Tulameen, a lakeside community in BC's southern interior, are under an evacuation order. So are 46 homes further north in the Nasco Valley. A busy start to what's just the beginning of flood season. Briar Stewart, CBC News, Cache Creek, British Columbia.
And flooding isn't just making life miserable in parts of BC. The spring melt is causing big problems right across the country. Warnings were issued in 3 Alberta regions this weekend. People were forced from their homes in Mackenzie and Woodlands County, where ice jams caused the Athabasca River and Peace River to burst their banks. And water levels remain dangerously high in the Grand Prairie region due to snowmelt. In Northern Ontario, the situation remains very serious in Kashechewan First Nation. Hundreds of evacuees have been relocated to Thunder Bay and Kapuskasing. Kashechewan is prone to flooding every spring when ice breaks up on James Bay. In southern Quebec, the concern is heavy rain. The ground in affected regions is already near saturation, with as much as 40 millimeters more expected in the next couple of days, though officials don't expect flooding to be as severe as it was last year. And in New Brunswick, sandbags are all that's keeping some communities from being completely underwater. In part of the Fredericton area, the floodwater is 8 meters deep. Ice jams and melting snow are overwhelming the St. John River.
We're coming to boxes here.
More still ahead on the National. Up next, can you fight Bell over the bill and actually win? Well, one Canadian did. What that victory means.
Plus, our special coverage of the vigil in Toronto continues, including a conversation with people working to help heal this community. But as we go to break, portraits of 2 more of the lives lost during the attack here on Yonge Street.
There are a number of employee groups and other companies hoping to emulate Lotus's policies in their own companies. We discussed having a meeting in January '93 in New York to network and exchange information and ideas. If anyone is interested in more information, please let me know.
The objective will be to explain the goals of the gay and lesbian organization to Bell employees. The article...
Well, I think the company's waiting just to gauge and see how progress is made in this area.
I'd like to see diversity training in the workplace. I'd like to see spousal benefits for same-sex couples, of course.
Knowing that you're in a company that respects you, that acknowledges you, it makes a huge difference. You don't feel like your family is considered less valuable than everyone else's family.
Spousal rights is a social right. It's a right to design programs to support the fundamental building block of our nation, which is a heterosexual family, and that.
On a rainy evening in Toronto, a small group of employees huddles to discuss the latest inequity at work, the company benefit plan. These are professionals from major corporations like Bell Canada and IBM. What distinguishes them from a majority of their colleagues is simply that they are gays and lesbians, and their declared spouses aren't covered by their company benefit packages. The battle cry is equal treatment at work, regardless of sexual preference.
Bell is not the enemy is ignorance. And
Carl Miller is one of the founders of the gay and lesbian organization at Bell Canada. In the past year, he and his colleagues have repeatedly asked Bell to extend the company dental, eye care, and medical benefits to cover same-sex partners. Companies have been generally slow to see the advantage of extending same-sex spousal benefits. They fear that satisfying the demands of a few might attract more gays and lesbians. They fear the possibility of AIDS might drain the benefits package, and they worry about public reaction to their recognition of homosexual families. But they can't escape the issue because today's companies have become testing grounds for society's moral and ethical dilemmas. Some make history dealing with these dilemmas. Others follow.
It's an historic day for this province.
And history in this case is being made on many fronts. In the public sector, Ontario Crown Attorney Michael Leshner set a precedent this fall when the Ontario Human Rights Tribunal ruled his male spouse was entitled to coverage under Leshner's government benefits plan. Ontario didn't challenge the ruling, so provincial public sector employees can include same-sex spouses under their medical plans. BC and Yukon have similar policies.
Among the many faith groups taking part in the vigil tonight, the Muslim community and some members of the Ahmadiyya Muslims holding these signs with a message for everyone, really, that in the wake of the van attack, that love for all, hatred for none is a message that has certainly resonated here in North York. And let's take a look now at some of the heartfelt messages for victims of the van attack in North York. Some of the messages just written in the last hour or so ahead of and after tonight's vigil. The memorial wall that was set up right after the tragedy continues to grow. And Rosemary, we're going to go back to you in Ottawa with more news in just a little bit. Go public investigation.
That's right, Ian. Anyone who needs phone, TV, or internet service will want to see this next story, so that's pretty much all of you. A Toronto man is speaking out tonight about his battle over service fees. He took Bell Canada to court after it reneged on a promised monthly deal. As Erica Johnson reports, his legal victory could help other customers.
No, I was as stunned and sort of appalled as anyone would have been.
In 2016, David Ramsey called a Bell sales agent to sign up for TV and internet services. He was promised a monthly fee for 24 months. But when the email confirmation arrived, it said prices subject to change, and they were going up in 2 months.
You know, you can't do a deal with someone and then send an email even a minute later, let alone an hour later, saying with different terms.
Ramsey requested a transcript of that phone call, then filed a complaint at the CCTS, the Commission for Complaints for Telecom Television Services, a mediator between customers and telecoms. It said, too bad, Bell had sent him a contract mentioning price changes.
They had either no understanding of basic contract law, which would surprise me because they've got a lot of lawyers working there, or had no interest in looking more broadly at the issues.
So Ramsey took Bell to small claims court, armed with what he called his smoking gun, the transcript of his phone call with Bell, where an agent promises his total cost for the 24 months will be $112.90 per month, and that he was going to get an email confirmation of everything that was just discussed. Bell argued it had promptly emailed contract details, and because Ramsey had continued with his service, he was essentially agreeing to the terms. The deputy judge didn't buy that, saying that kind of contractual behavior is high-handed, arbitrary, and unacceptable. He ruled in Ramsey's favor. Back at the CCTS, the commissioner says it will take a second look at Ramsey's case.
We are going to look at the file, and we are going to see what there is to be learned from it.
It's incumbent on the CCTS to take notice of this and review a bunch of cases.
This contract law professor thinks the ruling could be fodder for a class action lawsuit.
Let's get it all done and over with, and maybe that will make Bell change its position and not see any incentive in acting this way.
It's hard to say how many telecom customers have been misled by sales reps. A recent Go Public Marketplace investigation caught door-to-door sales reps for Bell promising fixed prices that could actually increase later.
This is price guaranteed for us for the full year.
It seems this issue, customers promised a price only to see that price go up, is not specific to Bell. At Go Public, we've heard similar complaints from customers at Rogers and TELUS. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
All of our Go Public stories come from people like you. So if you've got a story you want our team to look into, just send an email, why don't you? gopublic@cbc.ca. Still ahead on The National, my interview with Emily Steele. She's a Pulitzer Prize-winning journalist whose reporting helped supercharge the Me Too movement.
But first, more names and faces of those being remembered tonight at the vigil here in Toronto.
Well, Peter, this was day 24 of Chief Teresa Spence's hunger strike here on Victoria Island. And for a few moments, there was a sense of optimism that maybe a solution was near. But as fast as it came, that hope vanished.
That snow ending in the afternoon tomorrow, then a chance of flurries. Right now it's minus 24. Feels like minus 28 with the wind.
Cold in just about every way. It is ritual that passes the time on Victoria Island these weeks of Chief Teresa Spence's hunger strike. There is both the wood and the resolve, it seems, to keep up the battle. The morning walk with a friend, the chief turning her back on Parliament just across the river. She's sure it turned its back on her long ago. A few flashes of energy for supporters around her, and curiously, a brief dash for the door and a hotel. She's sworn off solid foods, but she's far from allowing herself to be trapped on the island. Just gonna go have a shower and a little lie down?
A shower and spend time with a few minutes with my girls.
That is the last Chief Spence was willing to say publicly today. In her absence, the crowds poured in. More well-wishers, more of the familiar supporters, bringing more supplies and more good thoughts. She returned in time to thank them and then retreat back to her tent for more meetings. All support is appreciated here, but what is clearly craved is someone or something that carries a promise of change. For a few hours, change seemed possible. Word of urgent invitations sent from the Assembly of First Nations to the Prime Minister and the Governor-General to meet with First Nations leaders on January 24th, the one-year anniversary of the last summit. If the Prime Minister said yes, would that be enough for Chief Spence to stop her protest? Chief Sean Atleo rushed to a meeting with her, and the crowds thickened. The idea of stopping sounding good to supporters who've become worried.
Fasting, political fasting is not good.
If the crowds had hope for the meeting, many in the know said they did not. For more than an hour and a half, not a word, Then Chief Atleo, leaving in a hurry, saying little.
You'll have to excuse me here. We're going to have to jump in.
Chief Spence's representatives far from appearing thrilled.
The letter that was sent from the AFN today, inviting the Prime Minister to a meeting with the chiefs, is that sufficient for Chief Spence if he says yes to that?
That is not sufficient. That is 3 weeks away. But what she's saying is, we want to meet. There's an urgency to this. Lives are on the line. So let's meet in the very near future.
So this goes on. It is effectively back to day one, with all here just waiting for an answer of some kind from the Prime Minister. You do get the impression, though, that behind the scenes, Chief Sean Atleo is pushing hard for a compromise. It's just not working yet. Peter?
That is comedian Bill Cosby after being convicted Thursday in the drugging and molesting of a woman. The TV comedian, once billed America's dad, could spend the rest of his life now in prison. He is one of the first celebrity sexual assault convictions since the Me Too movement began. That movement came in part thanks to journalism, when a handful of reporters delivered an electric shock to the system of silence that protects powerful men. I had a chance to sit down with one of them, Pulitzer Prize-winning New York Times journalist Emily Steele. Emily Steele is a New York Times reporter. Last April, she and her colleague Michael Schmidt dropped a bombshell about then Fox News host Bill O'Reilly.
Hi, I'm Bill O'Reilly. Thanks for watching us tonight.
Revealing payouts of more than $45 million to multiple women over sexual harassment allegations. O'Reilly denied the allegations, but Fox News dropped the conservative commentator from his juggernaut show.
If you don't like what's happening in the workplace, go to Human Resources or leave.
In December, Steele reported on a toxic work culture at Vice Media. 2 top executives were suspended. And just last week, Steele was part of a team from the New York Times awarded the Pulitzer Prize for Public Service. I met up with Emily Steele at the National Arts Centre in Ottawa on Wednesday. She was in Canada to talk about her reporting and how it helped trigger the Me Too movement. You know, I'm trying to think about what I would feel like as a 33-year-old who's won the Pulitzer.
I'm actually 34.
34.
You know, it's one of those things. As soon as I found out, I couldn't sleep for a number of days, just because since I was a very little girl, I always dreamed of becoming a journalist, and I've always really thought about these lofty ideals of journalism, of shining light on dark places and holding people in positions of power accountable and telling these stories that really help change the perspective of how people think about the world. And it's really just been a dream come true that I've been able to do that work, and then to receive the Pulitzer is really just, it was really special.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible moment.
Yeah.
So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Let's talk about some of the reporting then, and sort of the impact and how it started. And that's what I would, you know, as a reporter, obviously I have lots of questions about how you get these stories, and I think that's what people want to understand too.
Yeah.
So how did it first start to germinate? What was the first thing on the Bill O'Reilly story where you were like, we should look into this? How did that start?
The kind of seeds of this story really began way back in July of 2016. That's when Gretchen Carlson, the former Fox News anchor, sued Roger Ailes, the former head of Fox News, for sexual harassment. That story really burst into public view, the sexual harassment scandal at Fox News. And as a media reporter, we were just really chasing that story and just trying to keep up with this really wild and crazy competition of figuring out, was this an issue just at the top of the company, or was this something that was really pervasive throughout that entire organization? So we kept calling and calling and calling, and we started to see that there was a bigger story here, that there was a bigger problem.
So you were calling all these different people, but you were also calling them about a sensitive topic, a topic where they had maybe signed an agreement to not discuss it. So how did you get people to start telling you these stories?
It was hard, and one of the things that I keep thinking about now is that we were doing a lot of this reporting a full year before the Me Too movement really took off. And so this was a time when many women said that they had experienced this activity or this harassment or abuse, but they really feared coming forward with these stories.
It was a different culture.
It was it wasn't that long ago, but it was entirely different time. People feared that they wouldn't be believed. They feared that they would put their careers into jeopardy. They feared that that they would become targets because they were speaking out against this abuse. So that was a huge barrier and a huge hurdle that we faced. The other huge and significant barrier that we faced were these very ironclad confidentiality agreements. So what we did is some really kind of just old school boots on the ground reporting, and we called as many people as possible. We called as many people close to these women, as many lawyers, people who were at the company, people who have left the company, people who were in O'Reilly's world, to just try to piece together what this story was.
And you realized at what point that it was a pattern, that his behavior was a pattern and the company's resolution was a pattern?
One of the interesting things that we did is we went back, while we were kind of doing this reporting, one of our sources had said, it's just like the Catholic Church. It's just like the sexual abuse scandal in the Catholic Church. So we thought, let's go and look at the stories that the Boston Globe had covered back in 2002 about the sex abuse scandal within the Catholic Church. We pulled up all of those stories, and we actually watched the movie Spotlight, and because it was great just to see kind of how did they do this reporting? What was the strategy behind their reporting? What sort of lines did they use to try to get people to talk to them?
Hi, I'm Sasha Pfeiffer from the Boston Globe.
Did you have a conversation, though, at any point during the reporting about what this could mean?
Well,
or were you too deep in it at that point to understand?
That's what was so interesting. It was such intense reporting. We were so focused on following the facts and making sure that this was a fair and an accurate story that when the story published in April of last year, it published and then it just like exploded and set off this firestorm. And it's wild to think about, but it was right after the story published, there were protests outside of Fox News. Advertisers boycotted Bill O'Reilly's show. And you really can't underestimate how powerful he was in American media. People called him the king of cable news. The show was the top rated on all of cable news for 15 years. So this was this very powerful man. And so it was this kind of early moment that I think people really stood back and said, wait, this isn't just Fox News. This is a huge issue that our society hasn't confronted, that we haven't talked about. Yeah. And it was at that point that editors at the Times decided, let's continue to dig. Who are other powerful men that may have had these hidden stories? And so that's when my colleagues started to write about issues in Silicon Valley, in Hollywood, at the auto plant in Ford, and kind of the stories just kept on coming and coming and coming.
So that moment when you did finally go and meet him.
Yes.
So he had he lost his job at that point?
Yes.
Okay, because the timeline's hard for me
it's
to follow.
Little,
you know it so well that I don't.
It's a little.
So, but he finally agreed to talk to you on the record.
Right.
What was that like?
I was nervous. And we sat down for an interview, and it was kind of a very terse and tense 40 minutes. But it was also very important because it was all on the record, and we were giving him the chance to respond to all of our reporting.
Yeah, that's what balanced and fair reporting is.
Exactly.
Except at the end, he sort of loses it a little bit.
There was a point at the end of the reporting where we were kind of putting our folders, our papers into the bag and kind of ready to call an end to the interview. And O'Reilly kind of stands up at the end and he puts his hand on the table, and our recorders are still running. And so you can hear this on The Daily, which is the New York Times podcast.
Yes, which is where I heard it, yeah.
And basically he yells at us.
This is horrible. It's horrible what I went through. Horrible what my family went through. This is crap, and you know it. It's politically and financially motivated, and we can prove it with shocking information. But I'm not going to sit there in a courtroom for a year and a half and let my kids get beaten up every single day of their lives by a tabloid press who would sit there, and you know it.
And then you just left.
Yeah, so then we kind of shook the lawyer's hands. He didn't shake our hands at the end. He walked over to the window and just kind of stood looking out the window. And then Mike and I got on the elevator, and we were a little rattled and kind of went back and told our editors what happened and got the story into the paper.
How do you feel now that that part of the reporting is over? Because, you know, his career is done, he's done, these women have been given a voice, the truth has been exposed.
Mm-hmm.
How do you feel about all of that now, sort of that you've had a little bit of time to sit back?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really powerful to see the power of journalism. I think that this has been an extraordinary year for reporting and for following the facts. And I think what we've seen is that the truth does have a voice, that it's important to hold people in positions of power to account. It's important to look at the systems that have enabled that power structure to continue. And it's
shots that you kind of dreamed and wished that you could have gotten, you can now actually do. The shot that I chose is a shot of Parliament Hill taken with a drone, and it's powerful to me because it's a view that people have never seen before. In the past, to get aerial shots, we would have to hire a helicopter and it would be very expensive, but now you can get your own aerial shots anywhere from 2 feet off the ground to 400 feet in the air, and it's totally opened up a whole canvas of extra angles that you can get. The Peace Tower at Parliament Hill, it's a stationary building, so in order to make that more interesting, you kind of had to add some motion, and in switching lenses, we were able to get different looks. My favorite shot of the Peace Tower was coming across the water from the Gatineau side, and that was a view that I'm just not used to seeing of Parliament Hill, and at a height that I've never seen before either.
All the hairs in the back of your neck they just stand up, and you just know you're somewhere special. For anybody who has never been to the gravesites in Europe, Vimy and Beaumont Hamel for me because of where I'm from, when you approach that monument, just driving through the towns, you see all the Canadian flags, and it just makes you proud to be a Canadian. The foreground just gives you that separation between what you're trying to compose, and the separation is what makes it all work. It really stands out. I think the advantage that we have is to bring somebody where they can never go. And a scene or a shot, that's what television does.
It's a story about human trafficking and being lured into the sex trade. The image that I've picked is a portrait of a woman whose identity couldn't be revealed. She's this intensely strong person who has literally been through hell, but revisits it, kind of reopens that wound on a daily basis so that she can help other people. I think you can literally see the curtain kind of come up, and it stops about here. And in the picture, it's the sun obscuring her face, but sort of the device is there, and it's sort of slowly creeping up, and maybe eventually it'll be gone altogether. An image is powerful when it connects with a viewer. It's what's going to make you want to spend time with the story. I hope that viewers of the photo and people who go into that story will come away with a sense of hopefulness that this that at the end of the day, it's kind of a good news story, and that this person has been able to turn this really dark experience around. She is beautiful. She's a very attractive person and confident, and I think that confidence comes through in the photo. All I really did was show up and push the button.
At this appliance superstore in Bellingham, Washington, there's a splash of color to this upcoming Black Friday. Not just the poinsettias, but an expected flood of Canadian dollars.
There's a lot of money if you can.
Yeah, no kidding. Kate Grady is a happy man. The Washington state housing market may be in recession, but luxury brands are big sellers at this store.
If you were to look at our sales last year of high-end versus this year, it's, I would say, tripled. And if you look at where those are going, it's all going up to Canada.
That demand has literally changed the way this store looks. They've boosted the number of premium brands in these displays.
What we had initially thought of bringing in was even a lower price point, but we looked at our Canadian statistics and said, these are what's selling.
For Canadians, it's a perfect storm of proximity, parity, and prices set by manufacturers.
Most of your brands will have a minimum sale price, if you will. So they're going to say you're going to sell this appliance for X. In Canada, that X is traditionally higher than it is down here. So a Canadian coming down here on a package can save 20%. One package recently, it was a $10,000 savings.
And it's not just the big ticket items.
We get just a ton of Canadian clients.
For hairspray?
For hairspray.
And for this polish as well?
For polish and appliances are three items that we truly just fly off of our shelves. I mean, those are probably like our #1 sellers. It's the OPI.
These cosmetics cost $8.50 here. In Canada, they sell for $10 to $12. Even small purchases are making a big difference. Do you think it's helped stores like this during the American recession to be so close to Canada, or what impact has it had?
Yes, absolutely. I definitely think so. I think because you're still getting that demographic to come over the border and still shop with us. So even while maybe Americans are spending a little less, we're not seeing necessarily that the Canadians are spending less.
They're getting ready for Black Friday at this sporting goods store too, stocking up on a brand that was developed in Canada, Sorel's. With Vancouver's population 10 times as big as Bellingham's, it's not surprising Canadian tastes would have an impact here. It's the reverse of the U.S. elephant looming over the Canadian mouse, although the store manager prefers a different analogy.
The American economy is like a racehorse. It's either standing still or it's going too fast. The Canadian economy is more like, and I say this with all due respect, it's more like that workhorse or plow horse that just keeps going and does well. And so whenever the Canadian economy is good, we get more business, and it has been stable up there.
And so the biggest retail day in the U.S. will draw a lot of British Columbians. At the border just south of Vancouver, Black Friday is traditionally the busiest day of the year for Canadian cross-border shoppers. You will no doubt see pictures of department stores like this one opening at 4 a.m. to accommodate the rush. But some of the Canadians who are here on this day say you couldn't pay them to battle the crowds on Friday. You guys coming down?
No.
Why not?
Don't like the crowds.
No, probably not. It would just mean it would be really crazy, and I prefer it a little quieter.
No, you're not going to get me to come down here for the worst shopping day of them all.
It's supposed to be the best shopping day.
Depends what you're in for. If you're in for the bargains or the lineups.
And hey, if he has a change of heart, there will be more bargains ahead. Ever mindful of the Canadian shopper, some stores here have added a sale. Thousands of people marched as one in Toronto earlier this evening. Political leaders, dignitaries, members of this community on their way to the vigil for those killed and injured in last Monday's deadly van attack.
I think a big part of living in Toronto is the pride that we feel in being so diverse and being so peaceful. And I think this is a true representation of what Toronto is all about. A tragedy like this isn't going to break down our spirit.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. I think that it is such a clear expression of a desire to heal, a desire to support the pain of the families and the survivors.
Well, let's bring in two of the people who took part in tonight's vigil, and Imam Rifat Mohammed and Nisha Sharma Jaitley. You're a student at the nearby high school. You were singing, and you were one of the people speaking. As you crafted your message for tonight, as you thought about the message you needed to give people tonight, what was your goal?
Actually, my goal is to participate in this great marshal and the great vigil that to bring people together and to show that after any difficult time we face in Canada, as of that really severe incident that happens last Monday, we wanted to show everybody that Canada's strength is actually in its unity. And when the people get together in thousands of people like this, and to show sympathy and to mourn the victims who lost their lives last Monday. When the incident happens, it did not differentiate between color or religion or whatever. Everybody from different backgrounds, those who lost their lives and the other ones who are injured. And up to the point, we pray for their recovery as soon as possible. So it was a great pleasure to participate in such night, such evening like this, to show our support to the families of the victims, and also to pray for those who are still under recovery stage, and also to show the world that Toronto, which is known, it's really pride for the Toronto and for Canada, for pluralism and also as well as diversity, that this country will always remain in a solid peace.
So you were part of the choir, but I'll tell you what I want to talk to you about is, as a high school student in this neighborhood, what's it been like for you over the last few days?
Especially since my high school is only 5 minutes away from Melasmin Square, it really affected us as a community, because if it were 1 hour earlier, there would have been so many students affected. So when we found out about it happening and we saw the pictures, there was a hush that went over our school. But it really helped us come together as a school, and we've raised money and signed Bristol boards to bring to the vigil, and again put together a choir to perform, and it made me feel proud to be a student at my school.
Police have charged somebody in this van attack, and so he is behind bars. Do you feel safe on Yonge Street now?
Toronto is a safe place, and well, this happened, and it happened so close to us, so close to my home. Like, he was caught 5 minutes away from my house. I feel safe, especially considering how many people in Toronto and my school have just come together to show support for the families of the victims, and to raise money, and to hopefully awareness to prevent this from ever happening again. It makes me feel safe.
All right, thanks to both of you for speaking with us tonight.
Thank you so much.
Our special coverage here continues in just a moment. We've gathered photos of all 10 people killed by the attack, along with notes about who they were and who they have left behind. And you can find that at cbcnews.ca/Toronto victims. It has been a daily process this week in Toronto to take stock of the loss, unravel a motive, find something to help make sense of what is, by its very nature, senseless. Canada's deadliest mass murder in decades. Here's a look at how we got to this point.
From Yonge and Finch all the way down to Yonge and Shepherd, just pure carnage. Debris everywhere. Can't really describe it.
At this particular point in time, there's nothing that does affect the national security footprint. We are looking very strongly to what the exact motive or motivation was.
I saw like the crazy van hitting the people one after one.
It could have been me. If my schedule had been slightly different, it might have been me walking in front of here.
So the guy who was yelling, bells, bells, bells. So I give him my bells. And we try to help her, like, to stop the bleeding.
No, I didn't know him personally. I didn't want him to just feel like empty.
It's a tense moment. An officer arrives on the scene alone to face a suspect who appears armed. Manassian moves in on the officer, who stays cool, realizing there's no gun. It's over in less than 30 seconds with no shots fired and no more casualties.
That particular situation yesterday, the way in which it went down was nothing short of remarkable.
CBC News has learned more about the suspect in custody, Alec Manassian.
As police search for a motive, one possible explanation is circulating online, suggesting Manassian was angry over being rebuffed by women. The identities of the victims are trickling out.
The range of ages is between 22 and 94. And as I think you've recognized, there was 8 females and 2 males.
There is no forgetting, and for some, the need to remember together.
It's great to see that everyone from all different types of community come together to show their support and show their love.
I think that this tragedy will change our city for the better. I've noticed the kindness and the efforts of all the people in the memorial behind us right here, and I just think we're going to grow stronger for this.
Not to be cliche, Ian, but it's remarkable that it's just been a week. What are your impressions standing there talking to people?
Well, I would echo a couple of things we just heard in that montage. This is a community. Sure, it's part of the big city of Toronto, but it has an identity, and it's a community that has been shaken but is still together. And the other thing, to echo one of the comments we just heard, there was no anger here tonight. There were just people who wanted to show that they were together and, at least figuratively, holding hands. That is the National for Sunday, April 29th. Good night.
Good night, everybody.
Tonight in Toronto. Tonight in Toronto, people joined together their voices and their hearts to try to overcome tragedy through unity. I'm standing on Toronto's Yonge Street. Days ago, this was a crime scene after a driver turned a rental van into a weapon, murdering 10 people, gravely injuring many more. This evening, there was a vigil to remember the victims. This was a street scarred by violence and now reclaimed by compassion as supporters marched along the route taken by the killer. 2 kilometers of street forever changed. We'll hear from the people who felt they had to stand vigil tonight, including some who witnessed the deadly attack.
And political leaders were there, but they didn't speak. And as you'll see, this night wasn't about them. It's about those who lost their lives and the community they left behind. This is The National.
Thousands of people gathered here this evening. We're in North York, about a 30-minute subway ride from downtown. The crowd drawn by a communal need to grieve, to honor the dead, to comfort the living. Here are some of those moments.
This past week, we have endured incredible tragedy. We are here to help and to heal together.
We do not run away, we run to help others.
We believe our city has been shaken, but only for a day, because we know who we are and we know what we stand for. Such hatred has no place in my home.
Through many dangers, toils and snares, we have already come.
Leading up to that vigil, thousands of people marched together to follow the van's path of destruction and to reclaim those streets. As some of them told Joanna Remiliotis, their wounds are still fresh.
There were so many people, and yet it was so quiet. If their silence had a voice, it would be a lament.
And we love these people. I'm sorry. I can continue.
I just can't sleep at night, you know. I just still think about the bodies.
You do not face, you won't.
The procession began where the attack did too, a tragedy that leaves a shared sorrow, the wrenching knowledge that so many were vulnerable.
It's shaken everyone. And I mean, girls in our office were there. It could have been any of us.
A week tomorrow, and the horror has barely subsided. Every day, a new name emerged, and with it, a glimpse of a broken life. This, an act of support for every one of them.
Yeah, I used to live a couple blocks from here, so that's really something that hit very close to home. So I feel like I have a duty to keep the memory alive.
There is no way to prepare for an assault on the imagination. There is only a recognition of it.
And we gather this evening to discover that our sorrow is reflected in the eyes of the stranger standing next to us. And so too is our hope.
This vigil, the act of coming together for a city still reeling.
We as Canadians will remain strong and resilient.
A gathering for the victims and their families, and for people here too.
It is never easy losing people we love. The suddenness of separation is numbing, and the loneliness is immediate. Disbelief becomes our only comfort.
And there is still such disbelief. These women knew 3 of the victims.
I live right behind here. It was the first time I've been able to come out.
This woman runs a pet shop down the street. The victims were strangers to her, and yet the tears keep streaming.
Making you cry today?
Just the emotion. I know, families that have been affected. We all know somebody.
And this, a place to share that grief when there are still no words.
And Joanna joins us now. You've been on this story since last Monday. We got a sense of it watching your story. Despite this kind of brave face of resilience that's part of the vigil, you're seeing other emotions kind of not too far from the surface.
Absolutely, Ian. What struck me this entire past weekend today, too, was how raw it is. Of course, on the early days, it is something that people are trying to wrap their minds around. But even today,